Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again for another Appalachian Trail community news, through hiker update, and trail information. Got a lot of stuff going on the trail, smack dab in the middle of no-mow season. We got them strung out all the way from Georgia to Katahdin now. So we're getting ready to have our first summit. That's awful exciting. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's talk about what's going on the trail. So Moose Liver and Bee Liver, they have decided that they are going to hike their own hikes individually, and so Bee Liver, who has now become Baby Boomer, she's taking on a new trail name, and so their last known was somewhere around Luray, Virginia, so they're gonna be hiking their own hike apart from each other, and that happens from time to time, so no big deal there. They both enjoyed hiking with each other. Bee Liver greatly appreciates Moose Liver getting her as far as she did. Lolly and Pops, they are starting their hike back. So Lolly and Pops, they were doing the leapfrog method with the RV and the truck. And so now they are back on trail. They got off trail because they had to go do a cruise. Now, I say had to go do a cruise. They had a cruise that got postponed during the COVID and kept getting postponed and postponed and postponed until they finally, I guess it was a situation where they had to use it or lose it. Wasn't going to lose it, so they are back on trail now. They do need to finish by August, so hopefully that'll be very doable. Tupac, he has made it through the shanties, so that's awesome for him. McDuck, the Okie, and JFK, they have passed the 1,000-mile mark. Huge mark for them there. When they hit Harper's Ferry, they were no-mow hikers 343, 344, and 345. So they say they are still having a great time. Boston, he is entering the state of New York, says the weather's great, but the water has been very scarce with many streams and springs that have been drying up from the heat. So speaking of heat and drying up, let's hear from my sponsors for this video.
Speaking of heat and dehydration, you are losing electrolytes when you get hot and dehydrated out there on the trail, or no matter what activity you're doing. When you get dehydrated and you're sweating out electrolytes. And my sponsor for today is Element Drink Mix, and Element Drink Mix can take care of all those electrolytes that you're losing. Element is a tried and tested blend of electrolytes that you need to get back in your body that you're losing from sweating. It's going to help prevent cramps. It's going to help prevent muscle aches, the headaches you get, those annoying cramps at night that you get when you're in bed from losing all those electrolytes. It's science-based, so there's no sugar, no coloring, no gluten in it. There's none of the BS stuff, no artificial flavors, just what your body needs. So it's perfect for anyone who's lost electrolytes due to sweating them out. Great for anyone that's on a low-carb, paleo, gluten-free diet. It even works for those that have hiker hunger out there on the trail, and folks are worried about losing their fingers around you because you're eating so fast out there. So you don't have to worry about that. It's only got the good stuff in it. Right now, Element is offering my viewers for a limited time a free sample of all 8 flavors that they have with any order that you place. So it doesn't matter how much the order is, you just place a single order and they will send you a free sample of all 8 flavors that they carry out there, and they've got some great flavors out there. They've got citrus, they've even got raw, they've got lemon habanero, and I think we determined that habanero was a fruit the last time. But go out there and get yours. Go to drinkelement.com/Ramdino. That's for a limited time, and it's only available through this link down below here in the video and also down in the description section. That's drinkLMNT.com/Ramdino. Go and get yours. Here's a few places where it's a great time to have an Element drink mix.
On the Appalachian Trail. At trail days. While filming an update for the Appalachian Trail through hikers.
Yep, all those places Element will take care of, and there's a whole lot more out there, especially no matter what you're doing when you're sweating it out. Now, back to our update.
Yep, Element drink mix will get those electrolytes that you've depleted from your system back in your system in no time. So Togo and Al, they are past Neal's Gap and probably on their way into North Carolina, if not already in North Carolina. Bear Hang, he made it to New Hampshire and will enter the Whites on Saturday. It says there are no AMC huts that are open for full service right now, but they will be open in June 1st. So that's just a few days away. And he called us, he found out that, he called to see what was available, and obviously there was nothing available. Said there's self-service there, but there's no food, so water and privy, but there's no food there. He also said that the mud in Vermont right now is not bad. We'll talk a little bit about Vermont Trails here in just a minute, but he did say the locals say it was a surprisingly dry year. So Vermud did not turn into Vermud, sounds like, this year. Said there were places where the planks that were there to help you traverse the mud, and those, I call those bog boards. He said that they were not needed because the mud was not so bad. If you use those bog boards, particularly up in Vermud, I can tell you that some of those are loose. So if you're hiking with somebody and the person in front of you steps off the board or on the end of that board and you're stepping on the other end, it will kick that board up and then you'll take a tumble because you'll get hung up on it. And then also, for some reason, I guess they don't sell hardware cloth up in Vermont, and so they don't tend to put that hardware cloth on their bog boards there, and the bog boards get loaded up with mud and slimy, and they get really, really slick. So just be careful if there are some bog boards up there that you do have to use because of the mud. They can be dangerous. Topo, he has made it to Katahdin Stream Campground, so that's awesome. He is the furthest north that we know of anybody, or that we're tracking anybody right now. And so we had talked about a couple updates ago that if he was into Maine, he was rocking and rolling. If he made it all the way to Katahdin and they weren't going to open for a while, that he just wasn't going to be able to finish because he has to get to a job in June. So fortunately, that hopefully is not going to be the case. We're going to talk about Katahdin here in just a minute. But he made it through the 100-mile wilderness by teaming up with dog food and was assisted by some great and lovely trail angels, he said there. Joe Mary, I believe, was one of them. The 100-mile, he said, was fairly nice and is pretty good right now. Water levels was not a problem getting across some fords that he had to do. He said the streams were not really swift and that the bugs were not very bad. He said dog food is finishing up his through hike from 2022. Dog food had to stop in Virginia where he'd been attacked by dogs, and so recovered from that. Now he's back on trail, finishing that. And then Topo also said that Whoopi should be coming in to the Birches campground there and in the Baxter State Park any day now if he's not already there. Mouse Whisperer, she is back on trail from her infusions, treatments that she has to take regularly for what she has that ails her, and she is north of Allen Gap. So good to have her back on trail. Lucky Penny and Prickleberry, they have crossed into Connecticut. Lucky Penny said her mom had some bad luck and took a fall at a creek crossing where she stepped on a log and it rolled out from underneath her. She fell back, hit her back on a rock or something. Fortunately, she didn't have a head injury because her pack stopped her head injury, but it sounded like quite a tumble. Matter of fact, Prickleberry had to carry some of her load for, and eventually even carried a pack for a few miles there. But my understanding is she's all better after icing and resting it, and she's back on trail. Mountain Lion, Barely, and Strider, they have made it to the quarter-way sign, and so that means they have passed the 600-mile mark. Ranger, he should be coming into the Shanties by now. BFG has started his flip-flop from the Shanties. Cobweb Rose and her family, they have made it past the third of the waypoint, and they are now past the James River. Of course, her family is made up of Snapshot and Mountain Crusher, and Mountain Crusher's brother Loverboy, who is going to be leaving them this weekend. Sunshine, he's made it past Big Bald and should be done or almost done with Tennessee. Flying J and Chillin', they are north of Duncannon and hope to be in New Jersey in a few days. Wrong Way, she has made it to the 500-mile part on her flip-flop. And that storm that they've been promising all week, it is getting ready to come in here. So we'll see if we can get this finished up before I get wet. Three Tacks, she has passed the 700-mile mark and is beyond the Blue Ridge Parkway by the weekend. She did back-to-back 26-mile days in order to get past the Triple Crown area before this holiday weekend, which is Memorial Day. Kenny Powers, he is north of Mount Rogers, and he is hiking with his buddy Gadget. Hiram Hikes, he's passed the 900-mile mark in the Shanties. Frodo, he has made it to Rutland, Vermont. Oz, he's made it to Harper's Ferry. Trash Hiker has made it to Vermont. Wedge has made it to Pennsylvania. Rock and Roll, he's back on trail in New Jersey. Patriarch, he has made it past the third of the way mark. Cruz, who is new to our channel, he is just going into New Hampshire. So welcome on board, Cruz. And he wanted to give a reminder about ticks. He says every field he goes through, he comes out of that field in Vermont there, and he's had at least 3 or 4 ticks on him. So keep that in mind. Look out for those ticks as you're up there in Vermont, and those areas are really bad about ticks. Of course, anywhere on the trail is right now bad about ticks. So that's everybody that's reported in over this past week. Remember, I'm asking for your updates a little earlier. I used to ask for them on Friday and Saturdays. I'd like to get them first of the week, no later than the middle of the week. If you could send those in to me so that I could go ahead and get this video out earlier. Before we get to the news, I want to send out a couple thank yous to some viewers that have helped me out in a real way. Of course, you all help me out just by your subscriptions and by your comments and by your thumbs up. But these folks actually gave to the channel. Carlia Ballman, she became a Patreon member. So thanks a lot for believing in me and what I do to support the hiker community. And then when we had a video here recently, we did it as a premiere, meaning I was watching it with y'all for the first time, and we were commenting, chatting back and forth live. So that was pretty cool. And a couple folks gave me a super thanks during that time, and that was Jiffy Pop and Chef Coco's Adventure. So thanks a lot for those folks. Patreon link is down below if you want to become a Patreon member, or also up in the border of my channel. And then also super thanks are active. So if those are ways that you can give to this channel and help me support the hiker community at a little more deeper than normal just through YouTube. So thanks a lot, folks, for you guys that did that, and thanks for each and every one of you for just watching and what you do to help me out and keep me spurred along. So some news we got out there. The big news is Baxter Peak is opening Sunday. So this is Saturday, so that's tomorrow. So that's awesome. That means Topo's going to be able to finish. So right now he's with family down in Millinocket, so he's going to be able to summit tomorrow. Will not have a summit picture for him until next week because this is the videos produced before Sunday, and he won't summit until Sunday. But in any case, congratulations to him. All the Katahdin trails are closed up to Baxter Peak, with the exception of the Hunt Trail System and A-Ball. So those are the only ones that open, so you can get up there to the sign at Baxter Peak. You just won't be able to come back down other trails like the Knife's Edge. And this kind of signifies the beginning of our No-Bow Summit season. So that's awesome. As I said, Wooby should be somewhere in Baxter State Park, so he's going to be summiting. I don't think we've been updating Wooby on a regular basis. So Wooby, if you get this, be sure you send us that summit picture so that we can celebrate with you. And I know Topo is going to send in his as well. And it also signifies the start of Subbo season, because now the Subbos can start their trip in earnest. So that's awesome. Usually it opens somewhere around the 1st of June, so it opened a day or so early this year, so that's awesome. It's always worried about, we always have a lot of folks that register for the first week in June Subbo, and there are times that it doesn't open and they've already flown in, and there's nowhere for them to go up there. Baxter State Park doesn't have enough camping, and people don't want to camp for a whole week, and so they start their hike, and then a lot of times they don't make it back to finish their hike by summiting if they're a Subbo. And I have met people that when I was hiking through the Smoky Mountains National Park, that they were not going to go back. They were international students. They didn't have enough time left on their visa. They didn't have enough money to make it back, and so they actually did not finish their through hike. The ATC has received a report of bear activity around the Racebrook campsite, and that's at Nobo Mile 1519. Said the bear showed little fear of humans, circled an occupied tent, nudging it twice, and stayed in the area for several hours. And then there's also been bear activity reported at the George Outer Bridge Shelter. That's Nobo Mile 1260. Same thing with a bear there, showed little fear for humans and was not scared by loud noises. And then subscriber Ewok, she sent in a trail report from a hiker that she's in contact with. That's Snoop Dogg, and he is in Connecticut, and he said at mile 1468 near the Mount Algo shelter that there is a wild turkey that is jumping at hikers. So we've had bear attacks, we've had goats attacks, of course we've had dogs attacks, and now we've had wild turkey attacks. Next it'll be cougars. So you guys watch yourself out there. I still say the two-legged type of animal that's on the trail is the most dangerous of them all. And then I throw a lot of shade at the ATC. If you ever watch my channel, you know I'm not a fan of the ATC. Don't support them or stop supporting them. Encourage everybody else to do it, and that's mainly because of the CEO and President Sandra Marr and where she's led the ATC over the past few years, particularly through COVID, but even now continues to do that. But I want to give credit where credit's due. So last week I talked about a hiker there that was on the trail and was assaulted, and he reported that in. He reported it to the local authorities, and they would not even, in Fontana, they would not even come out and take the report. And because of the transient nature of the trail of through hikers, they said, and that's unfortunate because he saw the guy again at the Fontana restaurant there at the inn, and had they taken the report, he could have called them and they could have come and dealt with him then. So that's a failing of the law enforcement community there around Fontana. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park Rangers did take down his information, and he also issued a report to the ATC through their incident report line, where you can go and report that to them, and then the ATC will get that out to folks. Depending on if it's a bear issue, they may issue it out to the hikers that are hooked into them. Of course, they'll put it on their website, but they'll also put that alert out through text or through email if it's a bear. They don't typically do it for people, but they do send it out to their ridge runner. So in this case, they did get it out to the ridge runner, Roll Tide, who has been giving us information. He's the ridge runner in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park for the ATC. So I verified with him that he did receive this information, this incident report that this particular hiker got out there to him. So that's awesome. So appreciate ATC for doing that and for making that system work. And hopefully other things, maybe this is the beginning of other things working better for the ATC. And then Whispers, our northern correspondent, he said that the snow's melting up there, and the whites is still just a little bit, you can see here, but most of it's starting to melt away pretty well. The monorail, as he calls it, which is the ice that kind of forms in the part of the trail that's not worn there on the treadway, that's going away. Still a little bit of that, but through the presidentials, he said there is some little bit of spotty bit of snow, but everything's been able to be handled well without traction devices. And he mentioned the Vermont Trails are open, so they don't necessarily close them, but they don't want people out there on them. So it's kind of hard to completely close them off, but they tell people not to get out there and that they're closed, but people get out there anyway. Well, now they have opened them up, so this is the time of year when mud season's over with, and so they've opened those up officially now. And then we mentioned before that the 6 huts will be open for caretaker service and up in the White Mountains on June 1st. And then Fresh Ground, he is almost done with his bike ride across North Carolina, so that's awesome. He is still in SOBO fundraising mode, so for what he does takes money, for going out there and feeding the hikers, and he's getting ready to get back on trail within the next few weeks to feed the subos, but he is right now in the middle of raising money to do so. So I'll leave links down below where you can go to give to Fresh Ground and the Leapfrog Cafe to support the subo hikers and support him and what he does for them. Of course, you can always go to the Leapfrog Cafe Facebook page, and there's plenty of places there where you can give to him and give the Leapfrog Cafe and make sure that those subos on the trail are well fed. I'm getting ready to get back on trail myself. I'm really excited about that. I hadn't been on trail, and gosh, I don't think I've been on trail all year. And the main reason is I haven't had time because I've been talking about my chickens and been building a coop and getting them settled in. But then also, every time I plan to go, it rains, and I'm kind of a fair weather hiker, so I don't like to go on a day, on a weekend when it's going to rain all day long. And this has been a wet spring and a wet winter. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks when I'm going, or in 2 weeks when I'm going, it'll be great weather. Looking forward, I'll be starting at McAfee Knob and heading north. Of course, I'll finish the Triple Crown, get way past Delville, and plan to be probably coming out around Black Horse Gap. But in any case, if you know of a somebody up there that's a good shuttle person to shuttle me from where I'm going to be parking my truck at Black Horse Gap and shuttle me back to McAfee Knob, leave a comment down below. That'd be awesome. Love to get that information so I can get a hold of them and get them out there. Folks, that's all I got. As always, appreciate you and hope to see you out there. Cut. You know, did you really have to put so much on me? I mean, you really didn't get me that bad, okay? Idiot! Okay, that's plenty! God.